Brad Cox has released three studio albums, the most recent of which was Acres, which won three Golden Guitars in 2024, as well as rising to number one on the ARIA Country chart. His latest album is the rich, impressive Endemic Intelligence in multiple dimensions. As ever with Brad, it is a sweeping album with his amazing voice, and I have questions for him about it. Hello, Brad.
Good afternoon.
How's it going?
I'm well, mate. I'm well. Just I'm at home. I'm just about to head to the airport and head down to Sydney.
Ah,
I'm doing a big mob of this kind of stuff for the
yep.
for the record, which is an exciting part of it.
It is, well, it's exciting for me to hear a new album from you, and I'm always so intrigued as to what you're going to put on an album. But I do have a different kind of question to ask you about first, and I'm going to start with something that happened in June. You performed at State of Origin 3, and I imagine that was quite the highlight.
Yeah, it was very cool. Something we've been working towards as a team for a few years. And I mean, it was a great thing that it was a decider in Sydney at the big stadium. Really strange kind of gig as a muso because I mean, the closest human was like 65 meters away,
Yeah,
which
right.
they're not really used to. In saying that, there was all the bloody smoke and pyrotechnics and whatnot going on, which didn't make it feel like a weird 65-meter gap.
Yeah, right.
Um, but it was just really cool to be a part of, and I mean, we went out there and did our thing. Another strange thing about that was, it was 12 minutes of power. So usually 12 minutes in a big gig, like you kind of start settling in, and not that we really get too many nerves, but big adrenaline rush or whatever. And after 12 minutes or three songs, you kind of start to settle in. But after 12 minutes and three songs, we were back in the dressing room because the main event was about to start being a football game.
Yeah.
Um, so that was a really strange kind of experience for us. One we very much enjoyed as a band and a team, and yeah, got to take it all in. And our dressing room was right across the hallway from the Queensland sheds, which was kind of cool to be in that environment as well. So yeah, interesting experience and one that was enjoyed by all.
And yes, as you said, a different sort of gig. And I also think just having to go from that standing start, even if though you have played so many shows, yeah, you've got to be right there. The song choice is important. And when you said smoke, I was thinking you're a singer. Having smoke swirling around is not a great thing.
Oh, it's part of the gig, mate. No, no, I mean like CO2 smoke, like yeah,
Yeah.
like pyrotechnics kind of flames and that kind of stuff, which I mean that happens at a bunch of our shows now.
Right.
That just part of that production element. So nothing too untoward there. And I mean, I think of course Stadium is a smoke-free venue, so
Yes.
unless you're coming out of a flamethrower.
Yeah. And I would also have thought for you that you would have been at State of Origin in a state of conflict because you grew up in New South Wales in Jindabyne, but now you live in Queensland.
I did, mate. I often say this. I do support New South Wales in the Origin, but if it's 3 days of the year and the other 362, I'm very much Queenslander now. I love this state. I'll live here for a long time. I mean, put it this way, I'm also getting, if they had a state of origin in cricket, I'd probably have to go for Queensland, but because I really do love this state. But yeah, when it comes to NRL, I am a New South Wales supporter, and I was not stoked that they didn't win that game.
No. Well, I'm in New South Wales, so I wasn't either. But Queensland does get a mention in the first full song on the album. So you have a little musical introduction called What a Plantation, and then you have Sunset Psalm, and you mentioned the Coral Coast, and that's the area that you've been drawn to. And I feel like you're taking us to church on Sunset Psalm. It's your church, that Coral Coast. But I'm wondering if there's one particular part of the landscape or just the area generally where you live that inspired the song.
Oh, not so much particularly. I mean, we live here in central Queensland, just near Yeppoon, and we got the what they call the Keppel Islands straight off the coast here. So I spend a lot of time, well, I mean, as much time as possible at the Keppel Islands. So I mean, that has a lot to do with it. But I also really love the far north as well. My wife Sammy's from Townsville, and we have some great mates up further again near Innisfail, I went up the Cape for the first time this year, and I'll be going up the Cape every year till the day I die, I think,
Right.
now. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I fell in love with this part of Central Queensland, but I mean the Queensland coast is so unique in all different aspects and parts of it. But I mean, as a whole, that song's very much just about the Great Barrier Reef and how yeah, kind of fell in love with the reef and the Queensland coast as a whole in all its uniqueness. Yeah.
Mm. It is an extraordinary stretch of land, and quite regionally diverse. In fact, I remember hearing years ago that Queensland, I think, is something like the most regionally diverse state in Australia, just because of all those different landscapes that are in it. But also further into the album, we have the track "Country Ain't Country," which tells us something about the musical direction of the whole album, I think, and that is that you did not take the expected route. And I don't think you ever have, actually, really, at least from album two. I think you have mixed it up quite a lot. So there is country music on the album, and you are great at that, but you haven't confined yourself to the genre, as you don't normally. But I'm wondering what the first song written for the album was.
Oh gosh, tough question. Couldn't tell you. To be honest, the first song written for the album was probably Dance with the Moon, which is arguably the most kind of straight down the line country tune. But I also think it's an incredible song, hence why it ended up on the record. And I mean, we do country music so well and have done for a long time, albeit that's not this record's not all about that. But Dance with the Moon was kind of written um, when I was still like before I'd changed direction a little bit.
Hmm.
Like I wrote a bunch of songs for the next record when I was with my last record company, and it was very much that polished Nashville sound and straight down the line, and some great songs, some really great songs. To be honest, a couple of songs that I'm trying to flog off to other artists now because they're great songs are just not what I'm doing at the moment.
Right.
Um, but this one was one of the Dance with the Moon was one of the songs I was like, oh, I can't give that one away. That one, it's just such a beautiful, simple. I mean, a lot of the time that's the beauty of country music, isn't it? The simplicity of it and
Mhm.
and the relatability to it. And that song for me was pretty much straight down the line. And I think it has a really nice spot on this record, being the fact that that's where we came from. It's still really good at what it's still what we do really well.
Yeah.
Although some of these tunes might sound a little different now.
They do, but I mean, when I'm a Boxer came out, I just thought, well, yeah, that's a very different sound for you, but it's still so identifiably you. And I think it's not just the way you sing, it's the way you tell a story. It's your intention as an artist. So it did feel, I hesitate to use the term on brand, Brad, but it did feel like it was on brand for you.
No, I think that's a great compliment, mate, because definitely a scary element of, I mean, particularly when country music is just so big at the moment, and here's Coxie just going, "Oh, I'm just going to turn the corner just a little bit on this," which is terrifying, like it can be really, really nerve-wracking, but I find I take that as a great compliment. Thank you for saying that because I think that's what I've been telling myself with the I don't know what you want to call it, uneasiness or reservations about changing the direction of the way I'm writing songs and the sounds that I'm using. Is that at the end of the day, they're still Brad Cox songs, and
Mm.
they were still written as Brad Cox songs, and I think, as I said, I take that as a compliment that you say it's still on brand because it's expansion. It's not a U-turn. It's just a bit new. It's just a little bit different. And as I said, it's expanding in me as a songwriter, as a musician, particularly as a performer, as you may have seen over the last few years. It's just it's evolving and it is on brand. So I think it makes the bolder the bolder sounding changes a little less scary.
Yeah, because I don't think stagnation has ever been something you've been attracted to, really, as an artist. I
Well,
think even in the first album, there was so much going on there that
well,
was.
that's a calculated decision. And I've said this a few times, and I mean it extremely respectfully. But my personal opinion of a lot of country music artists is they find a sound, they potentially blow up, make good on it, and they rinse and repeat it because it worked. And that's fine. That's great. And arguably some of the biggest, particularly country music artists in the world
Hmm.
are flying jets around and having a fat old time, and good on them for that. For me, that's not challenging.
Hmm.
It's not challenging. It's not exciting. It's not different. It's not evolving, as I just said to you. And I think that's what this is a tough industry, man. Like this, it's really hard to stay in this game. It's a lot of fun, but God, it's a lot of hard work and it's a lot of challenging elements to it. But I think for me personally, and I'm only strictly talking about that, and I just want to reiterate again, is I'm not throwing any shade
Hmm.
on people that make similar sounding records, but it's just not interesting to me.
Hmm.
It's just not what I want to be doing. I don't want to make the same record twice. And I'm really God, who knows what the next one's going to sound like? Because it excites me to do different stuff and challenge myself and move into different worlds and maybe come back again. But I don't want to make acres again. I've done that and it was awesome. And I'm very thankful to all those songs and my fans that love it. And now I'm going to do Endemic Intelligence and next I'm going to do something different, but they
Yeah.
won't be the same record.
Well, and also I would imagine for you as someone who plays live a lot, pushing yourself there is interesting too, because the song, whatever songs you're putting on the latest album, obviously that's what you're taking on the road to an extent. You can't play the whole album because your fans will want to hear some of your previous songs. But I would think that for you with your band in the room when you're working out what's going on, it would be really fun actually to take some of these songs and think, how are we going to translate this to a live environment?
Yeah, well, we actually did that a few weeks ago for these shows coming up to kind of support this record. Um, it's an extremely exciting part of the process, and it is funny because you do want to play all of them. But I've had that throughout my whole career and all of these records. Like, there's songs I've never played live. 2 albums ago, I've never played Caught on a Noose by a Stranger live off my second record. I've never played, like, I think there's probably about 10 songs that we've just never ever played. Which is interesting. But this record in particular is the first time where we were going, oh, I'd really love to do all of them. So maybe, I don't know, I'm saying this now, this hasn't been spoken about, but maybe at the end of this cycle we'll do a show where we just play the record top to bottom or something. Maybe.
I think that'd be extremely fun and interesting as a fan. But also in listening to the album and listening to, because I should also stress that in changing the sound for some of these songs, they're all really high quality. It's not as if you've just dabbled and thought, well, let's give it a punt and see what happens. They're actually all incredibly strong songs, and listening to them all, your voice, of course, is in you as the songwriter. That's what ties everything together. But I also think the strength of your voice, the power of it, the tone of it gives you the flexibility to try different things because it's not, in inverted commas, just a country music voice. It's this incredible instrument. And I would think for you, it is really interesting to think, well, what can I do here? What's possible?
Oh, I appreciate that. I think that's a great compliment. So thank you. I think a lot of that has come down to, I'm not a trained singer at all. I never have been. I mean, back in the early days, I'd warm up with four schooners and four durries, and that was my singing preparation. But I think as I've gotten older and I'm 30 now, I probably figured it out a little better, and probably a little more confident to experiment, I suppose. Along with that, my producer Chris Collins is just an incredible producer, but he's got a real knack for vocal recording, I think. And that might just be a personal opinion in my experience, but yeah, had a great time recording vocals with, a great time recording the whole record with Chris, but in particular vocals. It took me a little convincing because I had in my head. Matt Smith, who plays guitar for Thirsty Merc, is a great friend of mine, and a lot of the Acres record, which we did during COVID, when it was produced in Nashville, but I did all the vocals at his studio, which is a shed in Gympie in Queensland, and he's one of my best pals. We just hung out and drank beers and cooked meat, and sometimes we were singing at 9 in the morning, and sometimes we were singing at midnight,
Hmm.
depending on the vibe. And I really enjoyed that process, so I really wanted to kind of do that again, and I pushed really hard to make that happen until I sang one song with Chris, and this is absolutely not taking anything away from the experience with Matt. I just had it in my head I wanted to do that again.
Hmm.
And then yeah, did a couple of songs whilst at the studio with Chris. I'm like, oh, this sounds awesome. We're getting a great product, so why mess with that?
So was Chris a collaborator for you in terms of choosing which songs went on this album? Because as you said, there were some that you've written that you probably give to other artists now. So did he have a say with you in the ultimate list that was on?
Um, I can't remember if Chris had a lot to do with the actual choosing of songs. I mean, definitely a little bit in terms of like right at the end in the getting down to what we're actually spending money on recording, probably. Um, but for the first time working with Warner, I kind of when I signed with those guys and the head of A&R, Paul, I've known for a long time, I kind of said to him, I was like, I want your help. I want to work on this record with someone who can actively A&R this record. I feel like previous albums I've all kind of done it myself or just within my management team. But worked very closely with the label on that side of things, which was a first for me and quite an enjoyable experience. It felt like we had some very spirited conversations and collaborating discussions on what songs ended up on the record. I mean, it's really funny too. There's one in particular. I won't name which song, but my management, the record label, they were all like, "Nah, nah, nah, this is not a good idea. It sticks out. It doesn't go with the record." And I went, "Just trust me. I really love this song, and I really think it should be on there." And we did changed a few things up and added a few things, and all of them went, "Oh, okay, that makes sense now." So it was a really nice experience. And I have a great relationship with Warner. I mean, I live my life like this, but they know exactly how I'm feeling and at all times, and there's no ego or no one gets upset. It's just everyone shares their opinion and we work it out together, which has been a real kind of narrative on making this record, which has been I'll say it again, a really nice time because I don't think I've really worked so closely in that aspect on a
Mhm.
record before.
And the album does have a real shape to it, and I was so interested after I listened to it a couple of times, and I just kind of kept getting pulled into Wait on the Day, which is in the center of it, and
Mm.
sonically the quietest because it's your voice and it sounds like it's a piano with the velvet on it, and the pedal is audible. Because I kept thinking, is that actually like a some kind of click track or something? But it was the pedal. I was pretty sure. And there's a line in it, I get tired of all this dreaming, which I thought was really interesting and somewhat, and maybe paradoxical because, of course, you've not just dreamt, you've created. You've created a lot of songs, you've created a lot of live experiences. So I'm interested at which point that song emerged in your writing process, like whether it was a long time ago or quite recent.
Well, that song would have been probably, I reckon, in February it'll be 2 years. And that song was real funny. I don't know if you're familiar with Austin Mackay. He's a young 23-year-old gorgeous kid from Newcastle. Um, Tall, blonde hair, surfer, but he's an incredible songwriter and he's an artist and he's been on the road with us a lot in the last kind of couple of years and he came up here to my place for 2 weeks to write songs. We were going to write songs. And it was just after, I mean, by the time I get to the end of December, I'm toasted, and I have been for years. And I take January off. I take January off, and I've done that for like 5 years now, and it serves me very well. And I think he turned up here at the end of January to write songs for 2 weeks, and in that 2 weeks we wrote zero songs. And the reason is I just wasn't there. I couldn't get my head around it. I was redoing. He helped me re-put in all the irrigation on our little hobby farm here, so. I basically had him sweating for 2 weeks and he kept trying to write songs and I couldn't get my head around it. But this was the one song that we wrote
Oh.
in that 2 weeks. I think he came to me with and now I'm could be corrected, but like a verse and a half a chorus or something. Like he'd started on it, I grabbed it and went, that really has legs, man. And we wrote it on guitar, and um, I just think it's such a beautiful song, and it's such a relevant kind of message lyrically for people that work in this industry, which is really hard to kind of relate to if you don't work in this industry. But like I've said it before, like it's really tough not to just go and buy a truck and go driving, or go contract mustering, or grow vegetables in central Queensland and tell everyone to go cram it, which I feel like doing a lot of the time. But then songs like this come around, and it feels better to do that and sing songs and go and buy a truck.
Right.
So that song. I feel like we almost worked on that song for 2 weeks, although we didn't sit there around a piano or a guitar and write it for 2 weeks. Like it took 2 weeks of Austin trying to get me to write a song with him. And Austin's a friend of mine. I love him dearly, and he was up here to write songs. And unfortunately for him, I couldn't get my head around it. I was still toasted from the touring we'd done or whatever we'd been up to for the last kind of 6 months. And um, to be honest, I'm very thankful for that because it's probably one of my favorite songs on the record. It's all free time. It's recorded live. It's a one take.
Right. Oh,
So
wow.
that's why you can hear the pedals. We just put like three mics on the piano and one in front of my head, and had a few goes at it, sitting in the sun one morning in the studio, drinking a coffee. And I'd never done anything like that. I'd never had a song that I could probably present on a record like that. But this one was definitely it, and I think it turned out great, and it was nice to not do not overproduced. I love the way I produce music, but it was nice to just sit down on the piano and sing that tune a few times, and we chose one and put it on the record.
Yeah. No, it is lovely. As I said, you get drawn into it. So that first half of the album, and then we come into that, and it's not a reprieve per se, but it does feel like this quiet time, and then we come out again. And one of the songs on the other side is Thick Skin. And just you talking about hard not to go and buy a truck. You wouldn't need the thick skin necessarily if you were doing that, right? So and this song is about the thick skin that you've somewhat inherited. It's like an inherited characteristic from your family line, and I think it gives us a sense of how you formed as a person and as an artist. But it's also that conundrum, I guess, that it's good to have the thick skin, particularly in what you do. You're going out performing live, you're putting art out into the world, but at the same time, you need a bit of a permeable membrane to create the art. So that's
Yeah,
tough.
that is a great way of saying that. I mean, the State of Origin is a great example of that. Like when we signed up to do that, I knew that we were signing up to basically. And I mean this respectfully because I'm one of them, but the Australian footy heads going, "Where's Jimmy Barnes? Who's this fat kid from the snow that we've never seen?" Because that's what you sign up for when you do those things. But that's one, tiny instance in this very strange industry that we do. And at the end of the day, I mean, it's the reason I'm not on social media. I haven't been for years now. Because every time I look at it, I'm like, the world's so nasty. People are so nasty to you, and if I want to make music, there's no way I can look at that rubbish and still genuinely make music and grow vegetables in central Queensland, as I said, and get on with life. So, I mean, yeah, that song's one that all my band, my management, the record label all really loved, and yeah, I'm really happy with that, how that one turned out on the record.
And this will probably be our last question, I think, time-wise, but as an artist and as a human, when did you first start exploring multiple dimensions?
Um, I don't know, hard question to answer. Probably the minute I got set free from my hometown and got let out into the world of figuring out how to be an adult, I'd say. That's
Yeah.
my answer to that question.
Because I do think I think actually being a singer, especially the way you sing, probably takes you through some multiple dimensions, if that makes sense. Like I think that's the voice. The voice comes from the ether in so many ways, and I think it can be a pathway through different experiences of consciousness, shall we say?
Sure. Yeah, I would agree with all of that. I mean, it could be just experiences too, or the human experience, life, etc., etc. Um, but I'm very thankful for all of it. The ebbs, the flows, the highs, the lows. It's all about the experience.
And it's all there on the album, and it is a terrific album. Brad Cox, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks so much for the yarn, mate.